Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome, Jake and Kyle. This is a very special event we are bringing to you today on the channel. I usually am a voracious mood reader, just randomly picking up whatever hits my fancy any moment, or a continuing series usually. But I saw Jake and Kyle choosing the TBR for Sarah Reads recently, and it was a great success. Found a lot of books that she really enjoyed, and I thought, ooh, I want to get in on that fun and make it a little bit more interesting, though. So, not only are Jake and Kyle going to choose 3 books each for me to read over the next 2 months, but I'm going to turn it into a little competition. So, there is going to be a winner at the end of this, either Jake or Kyle, and they're going to gain points by my star ratings. So, 5-star read is going to get 5 points, 4-star read, 4 points. But the catch is, I thought there would be a lot of kind of easy pickings with books that they would probably know that I would love, especially with familiar authors. So if it was a new author, they will get 1 bonus point if it's an author I've never read a book of before. So that brought a little strategic thinking in, and we did a draft where they alternated picks with Jake picking first. So we did do this yesterday, spur of the moment. I didn't realize that I might want to film it. So I was just in such great suspense and just so surprised and amazed and flabbergasted at the picks, just because a lot of these were books have been intimidating me, or series that I know I wanted to try for a long time, but am now going to be diving into soon. So this was a lot of fun.
I will say,
those who know me might be like, "Ooh, he was surprised." So Jake's gonna hit him with the curveballs, and you might be somewhat confused.
one of the better parts of this was just us being very predictable as who we are, and then being like, "Wow!" So it's been great.
Definitely the equivalent of us just like lobbing it, no curveballs. We lobbed it right down the middle, and he was just like, "Whoa, I didn't see that coming."
All right, so
also, you did mention the bonus point for your overall favorite.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay, yes. So let's say like they end up at a tie. Maybe I give every book 5 stars, and they had the same amount of new authors. But I will be awarding 1 bonus point for my very favorite book out of the bunch. So that itself could serve as a tiebreaker. But we are going to, even after that, have an extra book pick in case there's still a tie at that point.
And if that's a tie, then
we just have a tie.
Then we're tied. Then we're perfectly even. Then we're just, there's no separate. It's tie.
All right, that covers it all. Thanks.
Then we're gonna make Ben adopt the decimal system, and it's gonna be combined decimals. It's gonna be like, better get doing decimals, bruh.
I've been thinking about changing to your review system, but I've never had the courage.
A lot of people have brought out the out of 100 and seem like not aware that it's the exact same thing, but whatever. It's the same. Out of 100 is good too.
Yeah, I guess I go by the out of 10 because I give half stars sometimes.
I find it more satisfying when I have a book that like, if it's an all-time favorite, to be like a 9.5 out of 10 than a 95 out of 100. I don't know why. Just is.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what was your first pick for me, Jake?
For my first.
So didn't I go first? Oh no, you did.
No,
go first.
I went first because I did a random number generator, and I was like, let's just do odds or evens for who goes first. And I should have done odds or evens for picking whether you go first or second, because I was like, I'm not actually sure if one's an advantage, because picking second, you get to see what the other person picked and like go based on that. And I actually wanted to pick second. You'll find out why shortly. But then I won it, and I was like, I guess that means I'm going first. So anyway, for my first pick in the Bengus Khan draft, I have selected Shards of Honor by Lois McMaster Bujold, which was apparently, his cover's so much better. We're putting this down. Get out of here.
Ooh. That is a better cover. Yeah.
Which apparently was extremely surprising. I guess I haven't actually posted my I'm Obsessed with the Vorkoskin Saga video, so some of you may not be caught up on this. I filmed it. I have not edited it. But I'm obsessed with the Vorkoskin Saga. It's a new author. He's never read Lois McMaster Bujold. I found it very immersive. So, that's a big, like, it's one of the ones where I was just like, I I've been reading slower, and it was one of the ones where I like got down to read it with like 2/3 of the book left and just read it all in one sitting. And was like, oh, I read the rest of it in one sitting. It's just a pretty safe pick. It's a lot less likely to be like, this is Ben's new favorite book of all time. I absolutely, some people say start with The Warrior's Apprentice, and I was tempted here because I think The Warrior's Apprentice is better and was more likely to win me the score, but ultimately I think it spoils Barrier so much, and I wasn't willing to compromise my morals and recommend The Warrior's Apprentice.
My surprise here, first of all, I'm happy because I've been thinking about starting this for a while and seeing recent buzz about this series too from you and other people reading it.
I also just read it, and I really liked it. I think it's a good book. I also agree. I don't think I was immersed just because I was reading a lot of things, and as we all know, I don't get immersed very easily. But I did read it very fast. I think I read the first like 3 or 4 chapters, like slowly, but then I just finished the book in like one day after that. So it is a really good book. Yeah.
Where did this land with you with both of your like ratings?
I gave it an 8.5.
I give it a 9. I really like it. I think it was one of them where a 9, it's objectively, I think, if you buy objectively, it's not quite as unique of a book in terms of conflict as some of the later ones, but I just really enjoy it. I really like both of the central main 2 characters. I think it's just very engaging with its pacing. It does a very good job of like just having the inciting incident happen like right away without being confusing.
I do like that. I was surprised because
it's funny.
I did assume you were gonna choose a Bujold book, but I thought it was gonna be Curse of Chalian because that's more of like a standalone. And I thought like, ooh, a book 1 of a long series. Usually those, don't get 5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long series, but it's a long series where like they're each pretty standalone-ish. A lot of them form sub arcs, but this was part cowardice in that Curse of Chalian is just slower, and I see more potential for you to dislike it, even though I think Curse of Chalian is overall a little bit better. I also just think I was expecting us to recommend quite a few dense books for the rest. Curse of Chalian is also like the writing style is noticeably different and denser. So I was like, we should probably give him something lighter to not just spam you with dense fantasy.
And I will be coming off of Fool's Assassin, which is a heavy-ish read.
Heavy-ish.
And Disquiet Gods as well. I don't know when I'm going to start this, whether I'm going to jump in now before Disquiet Gods, maybe, because finishing up Fool's Assassin soon.
Oh, I'm going to pause you real quick. You're not telling us what you thought of these until we do the live, right? Or are you just going to post it normally?
I mean, I'll post my starting to Goodreads, I think, and you'll be able to track the state of the score.
We're not doing the surprise. Okay,
we're not doing the suspense.
Yeah.
I love the suspense, but you are the world's worst secret keeper. So.
And I'm guessing that things are gonna stay close toward the end, so that the suspense will be
what if
there
you,
at the end.
Like depending on how it goes, if it's close, like near the end, like the last 2 or 3 books.
Probably the last book don't post, and for the last book we can keep it. And don't tell us like which is your favorite. Like if you read 2 of the later books and you give both super enthusiastic 5 stars, don't tell us which you like more.
Okay, I'll also.
Or if you hate them all, don't tell us which one you hate.
If I mention like in Goodreads reviews or in videos or wrap ups, I will try to stay away from like this is my favorite book of all time type of language. Like I'll try to keep a lid on like which one I think might be my overall favorite. So okay, solid start, because this series I've been excited about. I need more of these kind of breezier series. I love big long series and haven't done one that's like a sci-fi version of that. And so I'm pumped. I'm very happy you recommended that be a push to get me into Bujold. So awesome first pick for me. But thank you, Jake. All right, Kyle, what was your first pick?
When you first said this, there was 2 books that I was worried about, in the sense that I knew Jake and either of us could pick either of these books. And originally you said that you wanted to do it in secret, and you're like, I don't know what happens if you guys pick the same book. I'm like, that is a legitimate problem, because I think there are 2 books that Jake and I would both be pretty likely to recommend to you. And then we decided on the random number generator and like doing it one by one, and we did that way. So Jake picked Shards of Honor, which I was like, hell yeah. He picked lame ass Shards of Honor. Just kidding. Shards of Honor is pretty good. And that means that, psych, Jake, I get to pick the choice that I know Ben's going to like. And you can suck it, Jake. This is my thought pattern at the time. Keep it
hold for this.
Yeah. And that is The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. Surprising nobody, I am a Dandelion Dynasty shill, and I have lots of reasons for choosing this one. Number one, it is a sprawling kind of epic where you get to follow a lot of different characters across a long period of time, and that does make a lot of people struggle with immersion. So that could be a potential drawback for Ben, but it could also go the other way. I find a lot of people get really immersed in the setting of Dara, which I think is very well done. And if you're I do expect you to get less out of the character front, but feel really immersed by the world in this first book, especially. So
I've never been one to say that I was a character-driven reader. I love, all the different aspects, and have enjoyed a lot of those more sprawling fantasy series too, like Malazan, Wheel of Time.
Yeah, for sure. So I have a strong feeling you're going to like this. Am I super hopeful that it's going to be a 5-star? No, it could easily be a 4-star, but I get the bonus author point on this one. So that's what I was thinking there.
Exactly how I felt for Shards.
Yeah.
I was like, likely 4-star, but.
And then the sleeper hit here is I know my friend Ben quite well, and I know that a drawback for me is a positive for him, which I think this book is narrated by Michael Kramer, which is an objectively terrible decision. I think it should be re-recorded. Not because I have any slight against Michael Kramer. I just think he's bad for this story. However, I do know that Ben worships at the altar of Michael Kramer, and he will read it with Michael Kramer and be like, "Oh, his illustrious deep tones get me so immersed," and then that could get him a 5-star. So that's my thought process.
I've only heard Kramer read the words of Sanderson and Jordan, who had very similar styles for Wheel of Time and Stormlight, are very similar styles. Sanderson, I think, really modeled himself on Jordan's whole style. So hearing Kramer with something very different might throw me off. But if that is the case, I will probably try to listen to it less and do more of it in print.
I think that he objectively does a good job. And like I don't think he's a poor narrator. I just think that, especially with it being Asian influence, and like you said, like he's done so much other fantasy, it just was kind of strange to me. But I did listen to the audiobook, and it's like well done.
Okay, good.
And then also my secondary thing is that I would like to win this competition, but I more likely would like you to read books that I love. And even if this is a 3 or 4-star for you, then you will have started the Dandelion Dynasty, and that's a bigger win to me overall. So
I've been geared up to start the series for so long.
Yeah, you sure showed me.
This has been a priority on my TBR for so long. So I was happy you picked it, because I've been needing some sort of kick to get into this, because it is a little intimidating. And I was surprised though, because Grace of Kings is known to be a kind of different kind of book one, a tough start for a lot of people. And so, I was impressed that you took the risk of this one for this competition. But that new author bonus point, I think is good backstop for it. So thanks for that pick. I love it. I've been waiting for this for a long time coming. So very excited. And then
it was my turn, and I'll because as soon as we saw this, one of the things I was thinking of, I was like, Ben's read most of the authors I like, and I was like, oh, who are the authors that I really love that he hasn't read? And it was like, oh, Ken Liu. Ken Liu is one of those authors, and I was like, but I'm like Kyle, I'm a little bit of a coward. I was scared of Grace of Kings and the things that make it different. And I was like, if only I could just recommend to him Wall of Storms. We'd love Wall of Storms. I was so confident, but I can't do that. In my head, I was like this for Vorkoskin. I was like, if only I could just be like a later Vorkoskin, but I can't. And I was like, Kyle's gonna pick Grace of Kings. No shot he doesn't. I could just wait. So for like a minute later, I DM Ben, and I ask him whether if I can pick as my second pick in the Benghis draft, The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu. Kyle activated my trap card. I was very worried he would.
I cede defeat to you, good sir. It was well done. And no matter what happens, we will got him halfway through this series.
Yeah. Well, so even if by page count, not quite.
By page count, yeah. So even if he doesn't really like Grace of Kings that much, but I agree, he's going to totally love Wall of Storms. So then at that point, we've got him.
Yeah.
We don't have to convince him for a year to just pick up the next book. We swear it's different. It gets better. No, we got him.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was really worried he was going to pick Grace of Kings last. That's why I wanted to pick second. I was worried he would be playing. We'd be playing like Ken Liu possum. Like who's gonna pick Ken Liu first? But none of that at all. He went straight in. So this does mean that for me to gain an advantage here, other than just me being happy that it means Ben's reading Wall Storms, to gain an advantage in the competition with Kyle, it has to either be 2 stars better or his favorite book of all of them. But I think either of those things are possible. It's also very possible he gives them both the same score, whether that's 5 stars or 4 stars. God forbid 3 stars, then we're enemies though. And then the competition won't matter.
Wall of Storms. I'll accept the 3-star.
Oh yeah. If he gives 3 stars to both though, then then there's not going to be a competition because violence will ensue. But this was my second pick. Yeah.
I love the game theory involved here. That was awesome. And when Kyle picked Grace of Kings, I was like, oh my God, Jake called it and was ready for it. And man, I've just was so thrilled.
Screenshots, editor Ben, of both my DM to Ben and then as like some kind of inception thing, like me posting my DM and being like, you activated my trap card. Thank you. Appreciate it, editor Ben.
I think I can handle that. Hopefully you will see it right here if I was able to.
If not, just write the words I tried.
Yeah. But oh man, I am thrilled because man, this series has been one I've just wanted to try, and now I'll be halfway through and probably, if I love it, getting momentum through to the end.
Forward momentum. Neither of you get that.
Love that.
It's all about forward momentum. It's a balancing act.
Where did we go next?
When I say forward, go. It's my Discord stat. Whatever. Kyle, it's your turn.
So after Jake owned me with his 3D chess, I was like, you know what? There were 2 books that Jake and I were most likely to choose, and Jake can't one-up me on this one. So I was like, you know what, Jake? Screw you. I'm going for the safe bet. The bet that our friend Ben here is not going to regret reading. That is The Lions of Al-Rassan by Guy Gavriel K. This book is very good, very, very immersive, as some would say. And Ben has recently decided that Song for Our Bone is like one of his favorite books of all time.
You can remove. There was a rank. Oh, that was fantasy books, I guess. So it was one.
Okay. Let's say it's his favorite book. I like how Ben looks like he's just jamming to music right now. And so I was like, you know what? I was going to maybe let Jake have the Guy Gavriel K pick, but because he's such a cheater and a loser and a fiend and a coward, I'm going to pull the trigger and do Lions of Al-Rassan. And I know that Ben's going to love it. And I'm going to win this competition handily. No questions asked. This is my thought process at the time. And no, I'm really excited for you to read it. I think Lions of Al-Rassan is really good. So
I don't know why I was surprised with this pick. It now seems inevitable, but I don't know. I thought people might go GGK like Under Heaven, possibly. Sarantine was.
I did briefly consider Under Heaven.
Yeah.
I want you to know, after this, it would have been hilarious if you'd been like sailing to Sarantium and I'd been like, sure. Lord of Emperors. Yeah. That would be the ultimate way to not learn your lesson.
So I feel great about this one. I've always been a little intimidated just knowing I've studied Spanish history a little bit in college. I've been a little intimidated of just approaching this one, knowing that it's probably going to be on the heavy side, but after Song for Our Bone, I am ready for more of that. So this is a good time.
So I knew I was going to pick a Guy Gavriel K book. Anyone who was surprised by this, please check out my channel. You'll find this out literally any of the videos. You'd think that doesn't make sense that me tell you. Somehow I will communicate the information that I like Guy Gavriel K. We got them the rainbow books and they're like down there. I didn't know which Guy Gavriel K book to pick. I was like, it's tough. Or a couple, I was like, I feel like pretty confident that these would like. And the 2 I kind of narrowed it down to was The Lions of Al-Rassan and Brightness Long Ago. And I didn't know which one to pick.
Are also the 2 that I narrowed it down to.
Yeah, but really? I didn't know which one to pick. And I considered picking one of them as my second pick. But then I was like, I don't really care which one. I'll just let Kyle pick one and then pick the other one. So as my third pick in the Genghis Khan draft, I've picked A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gavriel K, which is my favorite standalone novel. So
wow, I didn't know that. I thought Kyle maybe had a big leg up with Lions.
No,
I've not heard too much. We both like Brightness more than Lions.
I have not heard too much about this book in terms of buzz, so this took me by surprise.
So before Jake gets into his reason, I guess he kind of did, but I'll just say the reason I didn't pick it is that something about the DNA makeup of Lions of Al-Rassan, and I'll tell you when you actually finish the book, when we talk about it more, makes me think you might like it a little bit more.
Yeah. I have no idea.
But A Brightness Long Ago, I think I got more emotions out of me, and I also think is a more impressive novel. And I would say is one of my favorite standalone novels of all time.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is one I just haven't seen much about. Like I don't even know the setup, like where this is, like what time period.
Somewhere. It's Italy. Renaissance Italy. Which is not a spoiler to say, so I'm just gonna say it. It was pretty tough between them. I would not be surprised if you like the Lions of Al-Rassan more. Lions of Al-Rassan is many people's favorite Guy Gavriel K book. I couldn't pick Lord of Emperors. You know, if Kyle wanted to do me the solid of picking Sailing to Sarantium, I would have found that hilarious. But alas, we'll see which one you like more. There's no wrong option.
I also think, like, based on how you talked about Song for Our Bone, that's partially why I think you might like Lions better, which I have not read Song for Our Bone, but I feel like Lions is a bit more like grand narrative epic. I feel like Brightness Long Ago has more of a narrower scope.
More personal, yeah.
Yeah, like it's and that's why it got more emotions out of me. They're both excellent novels. Like it could go either way. I'm just trying to game theory my thought process where it's like, like I feel like Song for Our Bone like transcended you and like made you like think a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, I feel like you're gonna get that experience from Lions of Al-Rassan.
That's fair. So. I was just like, I feel like if I choose, I'll just choose wrong. So I'll just let Kyle choose. And if he'd left me for last without picking a GGK novel, I don't know which of the two I would have picked. I might have picked Lions. I might have picked Brightness. I have no idea. It would have been very difficult. But now I didn't have to make any hard choices. So that was awesome.
Jake, if A Song for Our Bone were in play, and if GGK was a new author for me, which GGK book would you choose as a first one? Think I like Longo or Lions still would have been?
I still would have picked Brightness probably. I mean, I would have also considered A Song for Our Bone. A Song for Our Bone is probably the A Song for Our Bone. I think if you never read it, if you've never read a GGK book, I would have picked a GGK book first to get the bonus author point, right? But for which one I'd pick, A Song for Our Bone would have the safety net because I think it's a little more plot driven. Like it's one of the more plot driven ones, and we didn't know how much you would like GGK's style of writing and storytelling. Now that we've seen your reaction for A Song for Our Bone, I feel pretty good giving you like almost any of them.
Also, I chose Song for Our Bone because I know that you really like music. And so I would have actually I would have been like, I think that's
the blind choice. I was curious if either of you were going to make a blind choice, having not read the book.
You know what though? It would have had to have been a book that I was already planning on reading, and I'm planning on reading Song for Our Bone right now. So if you hadn't, I might have done it as just like, and we get to buddy read during this experience.
There was one that I considered picking because it's one I know I'm going to read in May, but I decided it was too risky. We'll talk about it when we talk to the ones.
Nice. All right, two new GGK books. I'm kind of the only regret I have possibly about this contest is getting so many amazing books all at once, like and not spread it. Maybe that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I feel like if you didn't want this, we were going to pick good books.
Front loading like the best GGK books might end up disappointing, but I'm pretty certain that I'm going to love a lot of
like 7 people have been like, should I be worried about this? Like this happened with Josh, this happened with Joanna, this happened with like you. It might have even happened with Kyle, where people are like, do I have to be worried that like all the other GGK? And I'm like, no, he's got
it didn't happen with me.
Yeah, it's got like a lot. No, that didn't happen with you because you were at Tigana first, and but it happened with it's happened with a bunch of people, and I'm like, no, you're fine, like you're okay. Are there GGK books that I think are less good? Like yes, but one, you can't start with Lord of Emperors. Like, that's actually impossible. So you can't start with the best one. But also, like, there's just so many similarly good ones because he's.
And why not just read amazing books? Like I was kind of worried. Like I'm reading the Fitz and the Fool trilogy at within these couple months. Disquiet Gods. It's like I guess it's good that the other books are hopefully also going to be bangers to compete with that. So yeah, that's good.
Give yourself a stacked month where everything's fire.
Also, the reason I didn't choose Under Heaven, which I might have like independently, is just because I knew I was going to pick Grace of Kings, and I'm like, let's ease off on the Chinese influence a little bit.
I was kind of similar.
Yeah,
figured vary the aesthetic a little more.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, as the final pick, knowing everything that had come before.
So this is actually, funnily enough, the second book that I thought of possibly. Like the first one was Grace of Kings. I knew this was going to be happening. And then this is the second book that I picked. And then I reread what you said, and you were like, only like sci-fi fantasy. And I was like, this son of a bitch. But then I was like, you know what? I bet he wasn't considering historical fiction. So then I asked, and you were like, yes, we can do historical fiction. And then I was like, great. And then I initially backed off a little bit on it because I had several picks that I was considering. And then I was like, you know, we gave you several really dense books. I've read all of the books that we have talked about already so far, and apart from Shards of Honor, I would describe them all as like medium to slow pace, except for parts of the Wall of Storms are just like Wall of Storms just goes bird, but after chilling for a long time. So like you need a good fast paced one. So I go back to this. This is one of my favorite books, one of my favorite series, and I'm confident Ben will like it. And that is The Last Kingdom by Bernard Cornwell. This is the first
Jon Snow? What's going on there on that cover?
This is the cover of this is Uhtred.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched the show at all.
For some reason, this entire time since you picked it, I've had this and The Winter King mixed up, which I forgot Ben had read, and I thought he'd read The Last Kingdom. But this is your description of this book is one of my favorite descriptions anyone has ever given of any book ever. And it's like, you were just like, The Last Kingdom is just like about how many Danes can Uhtred, son of Uhtred, kill? And the answer is always all of them.
Is this the deepest series of all time? No. Is it going to blow your mind? No. Is it going to get repetitive if you binge the whole series? Absolutely. I don't recommend it. But I still love it so much. I've reread the first 4, and each of the 4, like I'm like, maybe this will be the time where I'm like burnt out on this style or these characters. I'm like, no, Bernard Cornwell's a badass. Uhtred is just like an all tier. I really love Uhtred as a main character. He's one of my top favorite main characters of all time. And part of it is, this isn't a spoiler, but it's a basic setup of his character, is that Uhtred is a Saxon who was raised by Danes. And so the Saxons believe, the Saxons over the time period of this time start getting converted to Christianity. But Uhtred is now raised by the Danes, so he believes in paganism, like, Odin and Thor and all of that. And so his, like, a frequent recurring thing is his push up against Christianity. And the way that Bernard Cornwell deals with that is, like, really funny, but also, like, pretty realistic and, like, not caricaturing Christianity. So I felt like that's just one of my favorite, like, aspects of Uhtred. And I just think he's a badass. He can kill every Dane in the room. And he's just like really smart. And just like, I just love Uhtred. And his growth throughout the series is really, really fun to read. And most importantly, the series kicks ass. Like, it's just like the best battles. Like I was born and raised on Game of Thrones and like the Uhtred books. So I thought that I just loved reading battles. And then I started reading more books. And I was like, actually, I don't like reading battles. Bernard Cornwell and George R. R. Martin write really good battles. So, and I know that Ben already loves Bernard Cornwell. He's loved the Saxon stories, which like
the Warlord Chronicles.
Sorry, Warlord Chronicles. See, even I get it mixed up, Jake, so don't feel bad.
There are Saxons in the Warlord Chronicles, yeah. And I do love the religious themes and conflict in there with Christianity and paganism. Like that hit for me in that trilogy. So I'm liking that's going to reappear here.
There's a like somebody has asked Bernard Cornwell before if it's like set in the same continuum, and like it clearly is. Like it's not there's not going to be a bunch of nods. Like it's not going to be like, oh, like my great grandfather was a guy, and you're like, oh, that was a guy from.
Cool.
But there is a through line that I don't want to tell you. I want you to kind of
I didn't
discover
know
it.
that. Oh, that makes me really happy.
And it's just a nod. It's not going to be like it's really not that big of a deal. But it's just like I read them in reverse. So I read the Warlord Chronicles after, and I was like, oh, this is a nice little thing, because the Warlord Chronicles, I think, takes place about 200 years before, and so it's still the same England, and so it's kind of like you get to see what happens after that in terms of historical context.
Ooh,
and
very cool.
I think you're gonna love it, man.
I was surprised by this pick because it just wasn't on my radar. Because I was convinced internally that you were going to choose Khan Igildin's like Genghis Khan series, book one.
That was on the list, yeah.
Because we had just read his fantasy trilogy, and I was so into it, and so I don't know why this one, but I think looking back on it, that this is such a safe, like, if you love this book and you know what it does well, because I love Cornwell's writing, his battles. I like the Sharp series. I never got tired of it. I binged huge chunks of it, and so if this is not the deepest read, I don't think that'll be a problem for me at all.
I found the original Kyle quote.
Okay,
someone was
you want to read it?
Someone was asking if like he was popcorn fiction, and you said, we're gonna start for the full comment. Well, I wouldn't call Warlord popcorn fiction. Cornwell in general, yeah, but Warlord is a bit deeper thematically and has some weight to it. Saxon's story is just like, how many Danes can Uhtred kill this time? And the answer is always all of them. I love it though.
Also, Jonathan Keeble is the narrator.
Yes, that's another factor.
I love him for Cornwell. He did all the Warlord Chronicles and Stonehenge, which is a standalone that a lot of people don't seem to love, but I like that book too.
Yeah, I plan to read that soon just because I want more Keeble with Cornwell. Like, I'm just like,
the narrator thing is a thing I didn't consider for Lions versus Brightness. I personally, although you really like Simon Vance, right, Ben?
I love Vance. I love Vance. I love Morton. I love both.
Okay, so I like Morton. I don't do that many audiobooks, but I've done a Morton audiobook and a Saxon and a Vance, and I like Morton distinctly more than I like Vance. But
I already have a lot of positive associations with Vance, so I don't think it's gonna be a big disadvantage.
I don't have a negative too with Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne.
I don't know who does the narrator for Shards of Honor. Hopefully, it's good.
No, interestingly with Vance,
I don't know if that's good.
I thought he elevated
I like him. He's not amazing. He's like, he did a lot of like books in like the 80s and 90s. Like, I feel like he doesn't do as many now, but he's a solid narrator.
Better or worse than Kramer?
Grover Gardner. I think I like him more than Kramer, but not by much. Like, I think they're both in the same school of they sound reasonably similar, actually.
Okay. Well, hopefully that gets me. By the way, I know you can't, because I didn't compromise my ethics and can't be like Warrior's Apprentice. But when you get to him, you're gonna love Miles, dude, as a protagonist. Ooh. And Miles is smarter than Uhtred. So.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, Uhtred is smart in like a tactical sense. He's also a dumbass.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, kind of Miles as well, but Miles is man, I've talk about Miles in the future.
Did you compare him to Lorien, or did I hear someone else compare him to Lorien Aristides? I don't know if I heard.
Someone, probably. I mean, the similarities are. I mean, that would make sense.
Okay.
I'm like, he's like a comment. Well, you guys haven't read Alora. He's like a combination of like the Alora protagonist and like Tyrion Lannister.
I like it.
Like Tyrion. All right, we do have a couple tiebreaker picks, which we most likely will not get to, although possibly if all things line up. We need to
break down how these tiebreakers happen, because Ben was so hyped getting hit with all these heavy hitters right in a row. He was like, if only we could do one more. And then we're like, well, there might be a tiebreaker. And he's like, yeah, that's true. Like, maybe we'll pick one for like a tiebreaker. And then me and Jack were like, sounds good. And then I like put my phone down and went to go get some food. And then I came back and he was just like, screw it, let's just do 4. And then Jake another one.
And then what did you pick that I kind of rethought?
You vetoed because I picked something too long. So I picked The Forgetting Moon by Brian Lee Durfee.
Yeah, I don't think I almost picked.
I almost picked normally because it's got the new author bonus. I figure, and just instead of like, it's got the sprawling world epic fantasy. Like, I think when you get to it and you get used to the writing style, you'll really like it. And it was new author, so I'm like, okay, it only needs to be a 4-star to be like the equivalent of a 5-star from K or Liu. But I just want you to read Brightness Long Ago a lot more than I want you to read. So I was just like, screw it. And also, I think Brightness is almost a more sure 5-star than Forgetting Moon is, because it's Brightness. I mean, if you like a song for a bonus, I've been known to be a fan of A Brightness Long Ago.
I'm pretty confident I will like the series, but I do feel like I want the right mental headspace. Yeah. And if I'm already in the middle of Dandelion Dynasty,
it is. You're right. It is big, dense, lots of characters.
Also, in the context of a tiebreaker, like it's a little bit different to choose as like when you were saying, oh, we're going to do a 4th pick. It's a little bit different in the context of a tiebreaker where I chose like a 200-page novel for my tiebreaker and you chose like an 800 in that sense. So then it would be like, oh, well, I finished this one, but I got to slog my way through this other to finish. So like it makes sense to do 2 shorter ones. Anyway,
so I picked a shorter one. I'm happy with my shorter one, but I haven't read the one Kyle picked, but from what I've heard, I'm feeling not super confident about the tiebreaker. But should I tell people my tiebreaker?
I will allow you to change the pick if you
No, I'm happy with my tiebreaker relative to my other options. I just like from what people have said about the one Kyle picked, I just feel like it'll be I don't know.
Ooh.
My pick's a banger for sure.
Let's talk about that one then. So Kyle chose
Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes, which gets a bonus author point also. So if we go to tiebreaker, I'm gonna rule you, Jake. But yeah, I just read this book this month actually, and it was phenomenal. And I was looking through books that Ben hadn't read, and I was like, this is the one. This is one that he should have read already. He and I should both be embarrassed. We waited until 2024. But if you don't read it for this competition, you should just read it after anyway, because it's phenomenal. I will say,
I'm assuming you're going to start trying to get me to read it as well at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody should read this.
This is a poorly printed version with a lot of bold face print.
Yeah, that sucks.
You should legally, I have to say, even though it benefits me, legally, you shouldn't be allowed to read it from that version for the purpose of competition. It's an unfair disadvantage.
Yes, I agree.
That's very fair and just of you to point out.
I'm a fair and just man.
You can listen to the audiobook, and I don't think. Well, okay, so I only listened to the audiobook, and then I've seen quotes from the book since. And like the basic premise of the book is it's a guy who's mentally handicapped, and he gets smarter with a medical experiment, which is like literally page 1. But the way that he writes changes as you go, and so I realized I missed out on all the he makes spelling mistakes and stuff. So you can see the way his like grammar and compunction and like actual spelling changes as you get smarter. And I just realized I was like, that would have been nice to have seen, but I don't think it like, impacted the story. Like I could still tell that the guy, his sentences were more simple, and like I think the narrator does a good affect of like how he's writing the word. So like the audiobook was really, really good, but I do think you lose something not seeing the physical.
I do like, especially when authors inject some personality into the actual kind of text. Like there's a lot of ellipses here. That is not very common. A lot of italics, spacing with these different maybe dates. Are they journal entries? But so like this is one I could see myself wanting to do immersively. Yeah. Maybe like I did a lot of 11/22/63 that way because there's a lot of personality in like the text.
Speaking of that, Jake expected me to pick a Stephen King book, so I'm glad that I swerved and didn't go that way.
Oh yeah, we'll circle back to that in a minute. But Jake, I nixed Forgetting Moon, so I think it didn't even have a chance.
Too long. Yeah, it didn't fit with the others. So I picked The Princess Bride by William Goldman.
I've never seen the movie.
Oh, you've never seen the movie? Interesting.
No.
Well,
wait, didn't you say earlier that you've seen the movie a bunch of times?
No, I didn't know that. I just assumed you'd seen the movie because I just assume everyone in this circle.
I've seen clips of the movie over my whole life.
Okay, well, both of you go see the movie, but then after you read it, go see the movie. What are you doing?
I agree. I've almost watched it like 17 times, and I just never started it.
Like go watch it like right after this.
I'm watching Lord of the Rings right now.
Yeah, you've watched Lord of the Rings before. Go watch it.
But I haven't watched it enough times.
Oh, would you recommend watching the movie before reading?
No, I don't think it matters. Yeah. I'd recommend doing both. Like I would read the book and watch the movie. I watched the movie first. I usually say read the book first. I think both will enhance your enjoyment of the others. And you'll be very confused how the book was written before the movie, even though it whatever. It's very. It's the frame narrative. I don't know how much you're going to like this book. You've read too many of the books I like.
I was remembering back to your favorite standalone video after you did like a month of standalones. Maybe it was just after the month of standalones you did.
I think it was on both.
The Last Unicorn. I expected maybe that one.
Yeah, too many people I've recommended to have not liked it have gave it 3 stars lately, and I've developed.
I also gave it 3 stars.
Yeah. So I'm scared of Last Unicorn. I did get my Suntop edition of the Last Unicorn, which is like really gorgeous, but I went with Princess Bride. I was feeling Princess Bride, you know.
I think solid tiebreaker if we have that situation arise.
Do you want to talk about the books we considered?
Yeah, I'm curious about that, and I read. I was gonna call you Read by Kyle. Kyle was thinking about Stephen King. I was very curious. About which ones you maybe were thinking about for King or for other ones, but you wouldn't have gotten that new author bonus there, so maybe that made it less appealing. Although you did go for Cornwell.
Yeah, so I considered King. It's more so I like the thing with Stephen King is he has so many possible choices that like you can choose wrong for a reason that you don't anticipate. And then if that's the case, like I don't think like if you love a Stephen King book because you already loved 11/22/63, but if you love another one, I don't think it's going to inspire you to go binge like a bunch of other Stephen King books, which I feel differently about. So like all of my choices have ulterior motives, right? Like if you read The Last Kingdom and like it, like I know you're going to binge like 6 of these in a row, and then now I'm like, somebody gets to experience Udra. And then for Girls Again, same thing. Lions is a little bit different, but I know you're going to want to read more GGK, and then Ken Liu. You're going to finish the series. So with King, I was like, I did. So the King choice I almost chose was Revival, which the thing I was unsure of is it gets pretty scary. It does at the end, but it's mostly a book about music and like a rock star and like there's like a coming of age part to it. And it's just like a bunch of mystery about what's going on with this preacher. And I think most of that story is like a pretty solid bet for you to really, really like it. I don't know how the ending will sit with you because you're a baby. That was my number one choice for King is I was going to go with Revival. So.
Okay.
I had a bunch I almost picked. So first off, you didn't say we couldn't repeat authors until late, and I fully considered being highly lame and being like, with my first pick, Shards of Honor, with my second pick, Barrier, with my third pick, The Warrior's Apprentice, for my tiebreaker, The Vor Game. So I considered doing that. But I wanted to get, then you only get one new author bonus. I want to get a GGK book in. I want to get Wall of Storms in. And then by the time we got to the tiebreaker, I was like, am I just going to pick Barrier? But then you're like, no repeat authors. And I was like, I guess I'm not. I also almost picked Curse of the Challeon for all the reasons mentioned before. But just decided that I was assuming that we would have a lot of like denser stuff and wanted to pick something that was a breezier read, which the difference in writing style is like pretty substantial. She's definitely someone with that ability to just write in completely different styles, both being very good.
I do think that was a good strategy on both your parts to go for one breezier one. I think I usually do like to mix it up a little bit with the styles. So I'm very thankful you went for a Vorkoskin and a Last Kingdom, just with a lot of the bigger, denser stuff. So
I'm sure we kind of expect you to read Grace of Kings and then Wall of Storms immediately, but it's worth noting you don't have to. I waited 6 years before I read Wall of Storms, and like there was a few moments where I was like, wait, who's this again? But like for the most part, I just remembered it because Grace of Kings is a standalone.
They both kind of sit pretty well on their own. That's actually true. I mean, of kind of every book I did. Like, even though Wall of Storms and Shards of Honor are in series, they both stand pretty well on their own.
I don't think Wall of Storms is as much of a standalone as the others.
Yeah, not as much as Grace of Kings.
It does tell like here's a conflict and here's how this part of the conflict.
It's more open ended.
Yeah, but it has continuations.
Then there was two very safe picks that I decided were too safe and too unlikely to get 5 stars and couldn't get a new author bonus, which is The Aeronauts Windless and Furies of Calderon. The motivation of that would have been I want to see you react to the Curses Fury book, the Codex Alera books that I like more. The problem is just Furies of Calderon is the weakest Codex Alera book.
Yeah.
If I could just like bend time and make it so you'd already read like Furies of Calderon and Academ's Fury, I definitely would have picked Cursor's Fury as one of them. And then there are a couple books that I really like that you haven't read that I just wasn't confident enough that you would like. The main two being Book of the New Sun. Obviously, it would have been The Shadow of the Torturer and The Black Company.
Oh,
Black Company would have been a really, really risky bet.
Yeah, that Black Company is very risky just because
that first book is
Shadows Linger.
Yeah, it's
Shadows
the same thing.
Linger,
if he did Black Company, I'd be like, Shadows Linger. But alas, no. Again, since you didn't specify, I considered just being highly lame and being like, for my pick, Shadows Linger. Bet you won't do it without reading the Black Company first. You won't spoil yourself.
Because I didn't set a ground rule that you had to go that. Earlier in a series. Yeah,
I want you to know I considered doing that like all 3 times. Like I was like, what if I just say like, what if I just go like Memory by Lois McMaster Bujold? Better go binge him. And then what if I just go Lord of Emperors? Gotta read Standing to Sarantium first, and then First Lord's Fury, because I want you to read all of it. So I almost took control, made you honor bound, and took control of the next 3 months of your reading life and controlled the next, like, and then I could have picked Soldiers Live as the tiebreaker. It's like, oh, you want it to go to tie? Get ready to read 10 books, buddy. So I almost took control of the next 6 months of your life. But I decided not to do that because it seemed rude. And then I almost
was Long Price Quartet book 1 considered
similar story.
It was
similar
considered by me. Yeah.
Similar idea though. Although
I actually think I was more confident you'd give Shadows. So I thought about that book. That was like my next choice that I was going to mention because I think you'll really like it, and I think it would be either a 4 or 5 star from you. But I wasn't sure if it would count as a new author because you read The Expanse. That's the only reason I didn't choose it.
Yeah, I didn't. I thought about that and I couldn't even decide. I'm like,
I don't know if it should count. I'm glad we know to figure it out.
So.
I also almost went completely crazy and picked with one that I hadn't read but know I'm going to read. And I was almost like To Like the Lightning by Ada Palmer. But then I decided I'm not that crazy. There's just the Ben 1 stars can really hit. Like this isn't like you're not someone who, if it really doesn't work for you stylistically, I can be like, hit's fine. He'll be like, I can recognize these things about 3 stars. No, you'll be like, this is the worst thing that I've ever read. 1 star, trash, 3.5 years horrendous,
reading the new
awful.
1 stars.
And I'll just see you liking 1 star reviews of it for the next 6 years. So I decided it was too risky.
I love when I open Goodreads and I just see Ben Kahn has liked a thing, and then it's just a 1-star review of the first binding or what is it? The first binding? Yeah.
First binding, yeah. So I didn't do that. I was a coward. It would have been a very entertaining pick for the people. But ultimately I wanted to not get wrecked. So
the only other
any others that you were considering?
The only other one I considered was Connor Eagleton. Wolf of the Plain is an obvious bet, but I also know that you like Greek history, so I was considering The Gates of Athens, which is also really good and excellently narrated, whereas I haven't listened to the audiobook for Wolf of the Plains, but that was the only other thing that I considered. We did
one I'm considering now that I but I think again would have been too crazy, and I actually am not sure if you've read it, but I don't think you have, and that's Fire and Blood.
That was a favorite. That was a favorite book of last year.
He's read Fire and Blood. Well, somewhere. I'm glad you've read Fire and Blood. Everyone out there, go read Fire and Blood. Like it's really good.
Better than the Silmarillion.
I like it a lot more than I like the Silmarillion. All the Tolkien fans, they just don't know that you hate Fellowship though, Ben. So they might still be here, and they might have just heard me said that and like, what? This guy hates Fellowship? What
everybody clicks out.
I also
we keep that on the down low.
Yeah. You're like, I'll edit that out. Me and Kyle could have colluded and been like, for our tiebreakers, I'll be like the 2 towers, and Kyle could be like Return of the King, which would have been
good.
Oh man. Oh, that would have been something.
And yeah, I did consider Shadow of the Gods. I did, yeah.
You haven't read
have either of you read it? Have either of you read it?
Yeah, I love it.
Oh.
I like it way more than running and fighting.
There's so much running and fighting in Shadow of the Gods as well. What do you say?
No, there is a lot of fighting.
Yeah, well,
there is some boating. There is a lot of boating. Yeah. I will tell you. Like,
there's running, more running and boating.
Running away from danger can be very suspenseful and compelling
for 3.5 books.
As is
for
3.5.
Okay.
As is fighting when it's as immersive and gritty as written by John Gwynne.
Okay.
Anyway, I didn't consider Shadow of the Gods for one very important reason, and that's I didn't realize you haven't read it.
It was on the list.
Oh, I missed it.
I've been just sitting on that. I had to binge Faithful and the Fallen so like powerfully. Like there was not even a question that I was gonna like not finish that once I started it. That like I knew like, ooh, if I get any kind of similar experience with Bloodsworn, I'm gonna want to have the ending there for me. So I've been waiting on it.
You did the right thing because like, so I am a strong proponent of like, hey people, you don't need to reread every time a book comes out because honestly, your memory will remind you, and then you'll be able to go ahead and then like you'll be fine and trust yourself. And I gotta tell you, I have to reread this trilogy, not because of Shadow of the Gods. I actually remember quite a bit about Shadow of the Gods, but Hunger of the Gods increases in complexity in a very specific way, where it's every single character in the book has a blood feud with a different character for a different reason. And like I'm that Charlie Day meme where I'm like and I don't remember any of them. Like I can tell you who 2 people in that book want to kill.
So are you gonna reread from book 1?
I am.
Okay. Yeah.
I sadly don't like them enough to reread them, so we're gonna go with the. I don't dislike them. I just have a lot I want to read and a lot I want to reread, and they don't quite make the cut. So I'm just gonna read book 3 when it comes out.
You could try the audio. You've been audio rereading.
Yeah, we'll try the narrator. I tried that. Actually, I almost did that for Forgetting Moon and Blackest Heart. I actually just don't like those books on audio. Like every character is more annoying on audio. I was really worried I actually just didn't like the series anymore, and then I started Lonesome Crown, and I was like, no, this is gas. Like
once Lord of Demons is on the way by Evan Winter. You're going to be in for such a treat.
I am going to reread on audio. I might just reread that physically, because the thing about those is I reread stuff on audio partially because I'm like, one, I have it in the background at work, and 2, I'm like, oh, this way it saves me the time of when I'm reading. But I'll reread The Rage of Dragons in 2 days, and then I'll reread Fires of Vengeance in a day and a half. So I don't even know.
You got to do the audio at some point.
Got like really good though.
Yeah, the audio is supposed to be really
amazing.
Good. Yeah, actually, I've heard the sample, and I was like, ooh,
yeah. No, he's incredible. All right, but
I will say
actually before we go, go for it, Kyle.
I was just gonna say, after we do this, no matter what the results are, I want you guys to do the same thing for me, so you can keep it in the back pocket of what you want to choose. And then Jake, obviously, if you want, to do it
I was thinking I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, so we can just make this like a whole like trilogy of events. So if you guys want to keep it in the back of your mind,
kind of feels rude to be like, yes, Ben, you can pick my TBR for a month. Oh, Sarah, I hope you enjoyed the books I picked, but.
Oh, I thought about doing it with Sarah too, but the catch was Sarah doesn't know how to read, so.
That is fair. She was late. So yeah, I'll just I always have my university book club, but I'll just read the ones you suggest, and that I'm also, slower now, but it can be less books.
We could do it simultaneously. We don't have to wait because I was planning on doing these over the course of the next 2 months, maybe. So
there's a bunch.
I can't do it now. Like
I gotta get.
I'm doing my like. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta get some series
wrapped up.
What do you have on the docket?
Well, we got Lonesome Crown, which is long, and I'm not reading because there's too much sports playoffs going on right now. Sorry, everyone. And then I'm like, I gotta finally continue Dune and read Children of Dune and God Emperor of Dune. That's been on the docket for too long. And then my May book club pick is Too Like the Lightning, so I gotta do that. And that's already like I don't read that fast. I'm washed up except for when I'm on vacation. So
what if you just
my work just started my work just started a book club and it looks like a lot, and we're like all teachers or tutors, like
is it gonna be pretentious books
in different places around the country? Sure. So like I was trying to get the feel of like what genres people read, and looks like one person is into romance because they were just all about Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Iron Flame, was it?
Not pretentious. Give him credit.
But it looked like the majority are more into like just the lit fic area. So I might end up getting sucked into.
You should take a bunch of people like fit, and you're like, we should read.
You should do what
on
what
Truth and Courage, bitches.
Bookporn's doing like a real life book club, but each person like picks a book, obviously. But then like the idea is like each person's kind of like a genre that they like more. So then, like, she's the person who picks the fantasy for them, and like the rest of them aren't fantasy readers.
Oh,
so she's kind of like introducing them to fantasy. She shows Piranesi, which
Piranesi. That's what I was gonna guess.
yeah. So anyway, that's something you can do. You could join it with an idea of changing these pretentious ideas in their heads, being like.
Thing is, you can't make them less pretentious by giving them an arguably pretentious fantasy novel. You guys got to be like, oh, you like pretentious things? Try The Rage of Dragons, like. Get him, just give him a book that's gasoline.
But you have to switch.
Yeah, you have to lure them in. Be like Piranesi, and then give him
Gavriel,
give him a song for our bone. And then let's see, then like a Bujold book, then a Bujold book, then the Chalian though, which is probably on the pretentious scale. If I'm not using pretentious as an insult, just descriptively, is a little higher on the pretentious scale than Vorkosigan, and then Vorkosigan, then give him Shards of Honor. And then complete the transformation with The Rage of Dragons.
And then after that, give him Stormfront by Jim Butcher.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a funny capstone there. All right, we'll probably wrap it up here. I do want to ask people, if you stuck it out this long, congratulations. And who do you think is going to win the contest? Do you think it's going to be Kyle with his picks of The Grace of Kings, The Lions of Al-Rassan, and The Last Kingdom, a favorite author of mine, Bernie Cornwell? Or do you think it's going to be Jake with his game theory strategy of The Wall of Storms, book 2, but no new author bonus point, Shards of Honor, Lois, McMaster, Bujold, new author, and A Brightness Long Go? Who do you think is going to win? Do you think we're going to need the tiebreaker? Is it going to be all 5 stars? Am I going to be disappointed by any of these?
The rain misses the clouds. That's all I have to say about the Brightness Long Go. I couldn't come up with a reference. There's arguably better ones for Lines of Al-Rassan. Maybe I don't know. It's true.
Well, I'm psyched. Thank you so much.
For maximum amount of stars, except for Last Kingdom. I don't care about Bernard Cornwell.
Well, I'm so psyched. Thanks for all these awesome picks of things I've been wanting to get to mostly for a very long time.
Can't wait for Ben to call The Last Kingdom the White Sand of Bernard Cornwell.
Oh man. Oh god. Be careful what you wish for. Like,
I can't wait for him to say Shards of Honor is the first binding in space.
I feel like it has like no. Be very different. I haven't read the first binding, but I think they're very different.
Oh, I love it.
I deliberately picked the least pretentious Bujold option of the 2 that I could pick. I say least as if I had like 7 options. I really had 2. So, well, I could have broken my morals, so I had more than 2. Could have broken my morals in multiple ways. I could have broken my morals and be like, start with Warrior's Apprentice. Some people say it's okay, in my head thinking that it's not. Or I could have been like, memory, read it all, bitch. Like,
which would have objectively the moral choice of getting me the right reading order.
By the way, thanks for asking us to do this. It's very fun.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see if Kyle doesn't specifically in the rules forbid it. We'll see if I'm ethical. What am I going to recommend to Kyle? You've read Bloody Ever.
You got time to figure it out.
Probably Barrier.
I'll read Barrier before that. That's fine.
Well, whatever the next book is.
Oh man, yeah. Just try to get through.
If you're reading
before
you're reading Vorkosigan, please stop before like after.
I'm not helping either of you in this. I'm just gonna do whatever I'm gonna do naturally.
Ooh,
whatever.
All right, let the games begin.
I will point out, the Bone Hunters is not that far away. I don't know. I'm not saying that I will be done Midnight Tides. I'm just saying.
Oh, I like possible. Midnight Tides more than the Bone Hunters, so he could do a 200 IQ move, except where I pick Midnight Tides and then he picks the Bone Hunters.
All right.
Go Team Midnight Tides. Comment below if you like Midnight Tides more than the Bone Hunters.
Nobody's still watching. They got the choices.
One person is watching. I know you. You're the real fan. You can comment that the whether you prefer Midnight Tides or the Bone Hunters, and Ben will know that you are his only real fan. Okay, this is your chance for recognition. To not be one of the fallen. That emotion.
Let the games.
That was an accidental Midnight Tides reference. So on brand. May the odds be ever in your favor.
I was kind of wanting to say that too. All right, we'll see you at the end of this thing. We'll come back on and break down how it goes. If it's close near the end, I'll try to reveal the last results and the winner live on air, so we can keep that suspense going. All right, look out for that in a couple months, and we'll catch you later.